Hello? Oh, good. Okay, welcome back. Let's continue where the heck we left off. 7 through 10. Your X KonoSuba, or other known as this guy that's mostly crazy, because it's stupid as fuck his name. Yeah, I think here X KonoSuba is the better name for it. And no, this is not the chapter, this is the chapter we're going to do next. Let's get
Efficiently analyzed magic is indistinguishable from science. May Hatsum, girl genius. Hatsum finished adjusting the straps and stepped back, grinning widely at Izuku. There you go. How's my super cute baby fit? Izuku flexed his arms, but found he could move fairly easily despite being encased in armor plate. He jumped up and down a few times and did some stretches. It's great, Hatsum. It fits like a glove and it's really light. That's because that's an ultra-cool aluminum and steel alloy invented by me. Hatsum bragged. It's stronger than traditional steel and lighter too. You just have to thank my super cute babies for creating it. Excuse me? Aqua snapped, glaring at Hatsum. I was the one who blessed the metal and the water you used to quench it to keep those crystal whatevers from making it break. Before the two could descend into a catfight, Izuku bowed to them both. Thank you so much, both of you, for your hard work, Hatsum, Aqua. It's really remarkable what you've managed to do in such a short time. It seemed to satisfy them both, and Aqua skipped off, heading for the construction of the new shrine that she was supervising. News had already spread to nearby towns and villages over the past couple of weeks, and large numbers of pilgrims were coming to receive the blessings of the new goddess, especially the healing. Already, Father Henry had a dozen new acolytes of the Axis cult, and plans for the new shrine were going to turn this tiny village into a major tourist attraction for religious zealots. May had spent her time with Martel, creating a seemingly endless stream of marvelous inventions. She'd moved from the blacksmith shop to the watermill, which instead of grinding grain, now produced mechanical power for Hatsum to work with. Her steam engine was up and running as well, producing a limited amount of electricity which she was using to fashion aluminum. Already, merchants were clamoring for the wondrous metal, which could be used for a variety of weapons, armor, and other more mundane uses. As for Megumin, well, Izuku winced as he heard another echoing boom. The Crimson Demon cult was rapidly gaining new members, despite its bizarre religious practice, but mostly because it was extremely hard to argue with results. Megumin was basking in the glory of being the undisputed strongest magic user in the world and coming up with increasingly bizarre rituals. Her followers were not nearly as numerous as Aqua's, but their strange habits had drawn the attention of a number of eccentrics, and her ability to grant her clergy tremendously destructive power was a marked advantage in a world constantly having to defend itself from dangerous monsters. As for Izuku, he had spent his time training with Anton, learning how to use a sword, shield, and even bow. He'd also worked hard on continuing to master One for All, though progress there was as slow as it had ever been. Thankfully, Aqua was always willing to heal Izuku if he injured himself, which had him pushing his limits further than ever before. An impressive suit, Count Blois said, striding up in his own less brilliant armor. It was well cared for, but at plenty of places where it had been mended and patched by Martel over the years. Truly, Lady Hatsum's creations are wondrous. They are super cute, but my cutest ones are just for Midoriya, Hatsum said, grinning widely. Of course, as is only befitting. Blois agreed, but then he grew serious. Lord Midoriya, I have need to ask for your aid in the field. There have been sightings of fearsome beasts, and travelers have been found slaughtered, even those well-armed. In fact, Marquess Renard lost 10 men hunting it, including 2 knights and a gilded mage. Sadly, his daughter and heir were among the dead. He himself was grievously wounded, only just now saved from death by Lady Aqua. Izuku swallowed, but nodded. Right, that's what I'm here for. And me, Hatsum said eagerly. I want to test out my explosion again. Are you sure? You were in the support course? Izuku said warily. Of course. Now I have a super cute quirk that I want to field test, and vicious monsters are the perfect way to do it. Plus, you'll be there, so I'll be safe, Hatcham declared. That made Izuku blush, but he nodded. Of course. I mean, you came here to help defeat the Lord of the Tomb too, right? Yes, exactly. Now let me get changed, Hatsum said and pulled off her leather apron. She was, of course, only wearing her bra under it. Blois and Izuku both turned away in embarrassment, walking a short distance away. What sort of monster is it? Izuku asked. Lord Renard and his men described a great pack of wolves, larger and more fearsome than what has been seen in this part for some time. From their description, I believe them to be dire wolves, but there is something else. A woman was seen running with them. She may be a lycanthrope or even werewolf. It was she who slaughtered Reynard's gilded mage and his heir. Blois hesitated, then lowered his voice. She also appears to be a mage of some sort, perhaps even a priestess of the dark god. Survivors report she healed several of those wounded by her wolves, only to brutally slaughter them when they tried to rise. That sounds really dangerous, Izuku admitted, glancing back at Hatsum despite himself. Thankfully, she'd already pulled on a shirt, but Izuku knew he would never forgive himself if she were injured. Then again, she did know a powerful magic spell, and he would likely need the backup. I'll talk to Aqua and Megumin. We'll need their help. A werewolf? Please, that is hardly a fitting challenge for my talents, Megumin told Izuku when he approached her. She had set up shop in a cave a short distance from the village, though it was really more of a rocky outcropping. It had various kitschy decorations, from animal skulls and what was supposedly a grimoire of dark magic to a black banner with glowing red eyes on it that Aqua had painted. She's supposed to know magic. You're the strongest mage here, and I don't know much about magic myself. She's already killed a gilded mage, and Blois says those are stronger than free mages like Marie, Izuku told her. HMPH. Megumin glanced at her followers, who were gazing at her expectantly. Is it just this werewolf? I can dispatch a couple of my acolytes. They know enough explosion magic. A simple folite that would hardly be worth the effort. She also has a whole pack of dire wolves with her. I'm worried that if it's one. A whole pack. Why didn't you say so? Dire wolves are worth loads of XP. I'll take them out in one blow, Megumin declared excitedly. Mistress, may we accompany you on this glorious quest? A boy about Izuku's age asked eagerly. Megumin had. She quickly reverted to her normal manic self, but her words were sensible. No, this is a trial your mistress must undergo alone. You must stay. Next up was Aqua, who was giving an impassioned sermon to her followers while work on her shrine. And so remember, if you fail, it's not really our own fault. Blame society. They're the ones who set you up, Aqua told. Lady Aqua, please heal my son. His arm was crushed by an ox, and he's been crippled for years. A man begged, leading forward a teen boy with a twisted arm. Aqua raised her hands to the sky. I shall need the prayers of my devoted followers to. The Axis Church can get things done. And because you can get things done, even if it doesn't go well, it's not your fault. The faithful cried. Amen, Aqua declared. Be healed in my name. With a simple touch, the boy's arm was mended, and he and his father knelt at Aqua's feet, weeping in delight and joy. There, Aqua cooed. Set aside your heresy and be united in the love that is Aqua. Lady Aqua, Izuku called, stepping forward and making his way through the crowd. The pilgrims gasped and quickly made way, but their whispers made Izuku blush. Lord Midoriya, the champion of the goddess, a divine hero in our time of need. Swallowing, Izuku forced his voice to be steady. Lady Aqua, a vile werewolf, threatens her flock. Please will you aid us in destroying it? What a werewolf. PFFF, those aren't. Aqua laughed. Please, the people are in need of your guidance. Surely such a, beautiful and, talented and intelligent goddess like yourself can lead us to. That made Aqua give Izuku a smug look. Oh, so you need my leadership, do you? She tossed her hair over her shoulder. Well, since I am the goddess of healing and water, I shall protect my loyal followers. Though it is neither demon nor undead, I bring the righteous judgment of the goddess upon it. That made Izuku sigh in relief. Well, come on then. Count Blois is getting ready to leave soon. He needs your guidance. Wait, is Megumin coming too? She better not steal my kills this time, Aqua said as they moved away. Well, I'll try and save the best one for you. Izuku managed. I really do need your healing and help, Aqua. I can control one for all a lot better with your blessing. Fine, fine, since I'm so utterly amazing and you're helpless without me, I suppose I'll come after all. Aqua agreed. But no horses this time. I'm not riding on one of those nasty creatures. Thankfully, Count Boys seemed to have thought ahead and had a cart ready for Aqua to ride in. Hatsum rode in the cart as well, though Megumin insisted on riding a horse even after it bucked her off when she tried to get it to rear so she could pose dramatically. Izuku rode on a horse himself, having been shown the basics by Anton. He'd need to dismount to fight, but even his stamina wasn't endless. He ended up staying beside the cart as Hatsum eagerly went over some of her ideas and showed off a few of the devices she'd created. One of them was a lever-operated spring-loaded crossbow, which rather interested Count Blois. See, this super cute baby can fire off 20 rounds in seconds. Maybe more if you're super fast and strong like Midoriya, Hatcham declared. Here, stop the cart, let me. Not even bothering to wait for that to happen, Hatsum leapt off, slapping a rack full of bolts onto her crossbow and raising it to her shoulder. Behold my super cute baby. The crossbow did indeed fire off a stream of bolts, which clattered off a nearby rock or sunk into the ground. One did manage to impact and lodge itself into a small tree trunk as Hatsum cackled delightedly. Remarkable. Blois murmured, dismounting and going to retrieve the bolts. It does not have the range of a bow or the power of a traditional crossbow, but to fire off so many shots so quickly, even the most proficient of archers can fire only half as many with a wooden bow. Well, if I practice more, I think I'll get more accurate, and with a few improvements I can increase the rate and the stopping power, Hatsum said, hoisting the weapon aloft. With this I'll kill all the wolves myself. Not likely, Blois said, shaking his head. He took out a vial and held it out to Hatsum. This is a distillation of silver. Coat the bolts in this, and it will injure the werewolf. Otherwise, it will merely recover from the wound you inflict as quickly as you make them. Werewolves are allergic to silver nitrate, Hatsum asked, uncorking the vial and sniffing it. It prevents their regenerative abilities, if that is what you mean, my lady. Come, we have far to travel yet, Count Blois said. They camped that night on a hill beside the road that had a low stone wall built around its crest, apparently being a popular spot for travelers to bivouac. Izuku set up a tent with Anton's help. They had not brought any servants with them, this being a dangerous mission, and the nobles and knights were used to caring for themselves in the field. Count Blois ended up being a decent cook and made a hearty stew for them all to share. This reminds me of our last adventuring party, Megumin said, gazing into her bowl of stew with Kazuma and Darkness. I miss them. What about you, Aqua? Man who needs that low-level pervert. And Darkness still belongs to their sect. Can you even believe it? We'll be just fine without them, Aqua said dismissively. Megumin frowned. Kazuma was very useful on adventurers. Though he was low-level, he had a great many skills. And Darkness was a great crusader. She selflessly shielded us from all manner of foes. Yeah, I guess, Aqua said with a shrug. Then she grinned at Izuku. Hey, Midoriya, want to see a party trick? No thanks. I need to read up on werewolves, on their weaknesses and habits, Izuku said, looking up from a book he'd borrowed from Count Blois. He was studying werewolf anatomy and the best places to attack them by the light of the campfire. What about you, Hatsum? Watch nature's beauty. A most impressive display, Anton gasped, clapping excitedly along with his father and the knights. Hatsum frowned, not looking up from her work on her crossbow. That is dumb. You are just using your magic. I'm busy modifying my baby. Izuku looked up at Aqua, who appeared crushed that her two new companions were uninterested in her tricks, despite the awe of the locals. I like your party tricks, Aqua, Megumin said, smiling at the blue-haired goddess. Can you show me the one with the teacup? It was always my favorite. Sure, maybe you can practice some of your incantations later. I always like those, Aqua told Megumin, setting up her party trick on a wooden board. You know I don't need incantations anymore, Aqua, Megumin said. Yay, but I like them. They were always fun, Aqua sighed. Megumin nodded, sniffing and hugging her legs. I miss Chamusu. She was a good cat. Aqua agreed, wiping at tears herself. She quickly reverted back to her happy self, showing off her floating cup trick to the applause of her audience. It's just dumb magic, Hatsum muttered as she tapped at her contraption. It's not even a proper trick. I could do that with magnets or some string. Izuku glanced over at Hatsum, who had moved much closer to him. Admittedly, she was also edging towards the fire and light, but she was also now nearly sitting on top of him. Part of him was nervous and embarrassed, but the other part, well, he was glad to have some company from home, even if it came in an odd package. Yeah, that crossbow is really cool, though. It'll be really helpful against the wolves. Yes, I will have to test to see if they're really allergic to silver. But for this, I'm going to have to put in a brace to help with the recoil that way. When it was time for bed, Izuku drew lots with everyone else for night watch duties, getting the first watch with Megumin. He yawned, sitting in the dark on the fence, looking up at the bright moon overhead. He wondered if werewolves here reacted to the full moon. Either way, this was a waning gibbous, and that was past. Hey, Megumin said, coming over to sit by him. Can you see in the dark? No, Izuku admitted, glancing over at the mage. Her eyes seemed to glow in the dim light, giving off a faint red gleam. Crimson demons can't, Megumin said. It is one of the many ways we are superior to normal humans. Well, I mean, isn't that just like a quirk? Izuku asked, frowning. Hatsum can see in the dark, too, and she's human. You look human to me, too. No offense. I don't mind, Megumin said with a shrug. She looked out at the road below them, frowning. What is your Japan like? That made Izuku blink. I mean, it's different. There's not really any magic. We use technology for the most part, like what Hatsum makes, only more. You have video games and computers. I know about that. Megumin sighed. I mean, what is it like? The people. What about quirks? Well, I mean, quirks are kind of like magic, I guess, Izuku said, rubbing the back of his head. Society's changed a lot because of them. They weren't always around. They emerged at the end of the 21st century in the before times. But, well, we're still people. There's heroes and villains, but most people want to live normal lives, with families and friends, and enjoy themselves. Megumin looked down. She was shorter than anyone else in their party, though her giant hat and overbearing personality tended to. Here in the dark, she looked like just another kid Izuku's. I never wanted that. I wanted to be the most powerful mage in my village, because then I'd always have enough to eat, and I wouldn't have to hear my sister cry. Izuku looked out at the horizon, scanning it for movement, but aside from movement of grass and leaves on the breeze, he saw nothing. I was born quirkless. That's strange, where I'm from. People sort of, well, they treated me differently. But I still wanted to. Aqua Megumin asked, looking over at Izuku. We've done that a lot. Made ordinary. Izuku shook his head and smiled faintly. No, actually, All Might. He gave me a quirk, a really strong one. He is, well, I guess, was the greatest hero back in Japan. I wanted to be like him so much I have to get back, to show him that he wasn't wrong to put his faith in me. Really, your world sounds really different from Kazuma's, Megumin observed. There was no magic or quirks according to him. The games were fun, though. I thought I could stay there with him forever, but I don't know. When Hatsum told me how excited she was about her babies and what they had done, I remembered my passion for explosion magic. What it meant to actually want something in life again. Izuku studied the strange, overly dramatic girl for a long moment. Are you really a goddess? Megumin smiled at Izuku, her teeth shining white in the darkness. Of course, I am the greatest of the Crimson Demon clan. I shall spread my love of explosion magic across the. In the distance, a howl echoed. Then another. Megumin stood up, stretching on her tiptoes and frowning. I can't see them, but they're out there for sure. Handsome, Izuku called, running back to the tents. He found her snoring in his own tent, her crossbow clutched in her arms. Handsome, what, field testing time. Hatcham cackled. She quickly put on her goggles and scrambled out of her tent as around Izuku the rest of the camp was waking up. Saw Wassat. Aqua mumbled, rubbing at her eyes. Am sleepy. Go away. Wolves. Izuku said. Hatsum's going to look for them. It got Aqua to groan and crawl out of her tent, summoning her staff and cracking her knuckles. "We'll be ready," Count Blois said, throwing wood on the embers of the fire. "Say the word, Lord Midoriya." Izuku didn't have time to correct him, taking Hatsum over to where Megumin was standing, her staff held up before her. "There," Megumin said, pointing out towards the distance. "I can see movement, but I don't know what." "Wolves and a girl dressed in funny clothes," Hatsum said, pointing. "They're about 2 kilometers away, but they're coming in this direction. Moving fast, too. Here, Midoriya, you look." Hastum took off her goggles and passed them to Izuku, who quickly put them on. The night took on a light gray cast. But when he looked where Hatsum pointed, he saw over a dozen white blurs moving towards him, and sure enough, one stood out, looking like a woman running amidst the wolf pack. "That's them," Izuku cried, passing the goggles back to Hatsum. "Boys, get ready. They're coming for us. They'll be here in minutes. Make ready." Boys bellowed, and soon the knights had flaming brands in one hand, swords in the other. They had already anointed their weapons with silver nitrate, as had Izuku. He had his own torch and sword, which he held in quavering hands. "It gets way too dark out," Aqua complained. She raised one hand. Holy light. A star seemed to shoot up out of her hand, rising into the sky and bathing the forest in stark white light. Shadows stretched away from it, but now even without the goggles, Izuku could see the glowing eyes of the wolves running towards them. "HMPH, they are close enough for me now." Megumin cackled, and her staff began to glow. "Flames of my soul awaken. Come forth, hidden power locked within me. Manifest thyself in crimson glory. I call thee forth from the abyss." Explosion! A ray of burning scarlet shot forth from Megumin's staff into the oncoming wolves, and suddenly a second sun seemed to rise. Izuku grunted and braced himself as the shockwave impacted him. Megumin herself collapsed atop the wall, slumping to her knees with a look of sudden ecstasy on her face. "Oh, come on," Aqua complained, going over to help her friend up. "You stole all the kills. Again, how am I supposed to ever catch up to you in levels now?" "Actually, I didn't get any experience from that," Megumin sighed. "I didn't get any from the undead before either. Maybe there really is no leveling here. That sucks." "Hey, who's that?" Hatsum asked, pointing up in the sky. Izuku looked up, frowning. "Who's what?" "That woman standing there," Hatsum said. "Right there. Can't you see her?" Izuku blinked, but he saw nothing amidst the swirling smoke and ash. "Aqua bless me," Izuku barked. "What? Why? Battle's over. Little Miss Kill Steal already." "Just do it," Izuku ordered, gritting his teeth. Fine." Blessing. The spell washed over Izuku, and he immediately felt one for all course through his body. He focused the power in his legs, then jumped sky. He soared towards the empty space, praying he would smash. Izuku swung his sword with all his might, which to his shock made it snap in half, the blade flying through the air. However, it stopped suddenly, impaling itself in the empty space. There was a gasp of surprise, and a woman, dressed in a black gown, appeared. She and Izuku tumbled through the air, the woman crashing to the ground just outside their campsite, while Izuku barely managed to land a few meters away, on his feet. "Well, well, well," a chipper female voice giggled. "Looks like we've got ourselves a strong one. Quite the impressive move there. But how did you see through my invisibility? Is that your world-class item?" No, it must be that girl's." "Never mind." Something darted at Izuku, and he managed to raise his hands in time to block the blow, which sent him sliding back. By the light of Aqua's star, Izuku saw a dark-skinned, red-headed woman dressed in a black dress and bearing an ornate staff, a maniacal grin on her lips. "Who are you?" Izuku demanded. "Why did you slaughter those people?" "Who am I?" the woman asked, grinning at Izuku. "Well, I'm supposed to stay hidden, so for now, just call me the Wolf Queen. I'm upset you killed all my little pets, but it did confirm what I needed." The woman suddenly gasped. "Midoriya," Hatsum cried. "Don't you dare hurt him, you bitch." The Wolf Queen growled, a bolt sticking out. That was silver. "Aha! You are allergic to silver. Quick, Midoriya, get her while." The Wolf Queen snarled and charged forward. Blois and Anton moved to intercept her, but they were effortlessly batted aside with a single swat from her staff. Armor crunched as did flesh and bone, and the two nobles. Anton's chest looked caved in, while half of Hatsum cackling. The wolf queen raised her staff. No time to smack. Hatsum was blown back, landing in a heap amidst the tents, while Izuku's fist sent the wolf queen flying. She bowled through the fire, slamming into the stone wall beyond it and coming to a died monster. Sir Jack cried as he, greater heal, flame strike. The two knights didn't even have time to scream as a pillar of fire enveloped them both. Their charred bodies and her human form, great damnable wretches. Look what you made me do. They didn't even suffer much before they died. The wolf queen panted, licking blood from her arm. You bitch. And out of the smoke and flames strode Aqua, her eye. Well, you're the wolf queen barked. At last we found you, Aqua. It took 100 worlds and 1 billion corpses, but at last you slink out of the shadows. My lord has spent a very long time looking. I don't care who you are, I'm going to kill Aqua. Sacred X, a shining star burst. Truly, you're a fool. C6 hours 12 not. Aqua was sent flying through the air as yet another detonation burst behind the wolf queen. The monster Hatsum collapsed, but her surprise attack had done the trick. The werewolf was staggered and now missing an arm as Izuku leapt back into the fight. His fists pounding at the monster, bruising muscle and crunching bones as fast as they were knit. She snarled and snapped back, but though her claws made deep gouges in Izuku's I'll kill you. I'll kill you all. Izuku interrupted the spell chant with a punch straight to the werewolf's muzzle, sending bits of tooth and blood splattered across his face, but he didn't let up. You killed my friends. You killed people simply for coming across you. You threatened Hatsum. It's over. One for all. 1,000%. Smash. Izuku's fist bore through the beast's rib cage, and out the other side, gore flying everywhere. The wolf queen looked at him, shocked for a moment, before her eyes glazed over. Not even a werewolf's healing factor could recover from having their entire upper torso pulped and shot through their ribs. Izuku stepped back, feeling sick at the sheer level of damage he had just caused to another living being as the former wolf queen slumped to the ground, blood pooling into thick mud around her. Izuku staggered to the side, clutching his stomach, and dropped to his knees, vomiting. And then Midoriya, he looked up horrified to see Hatsum dragging herself over to him. Don't die. You can't. I'm okay. Izuku said hoarsely, stumbling over to cradle Hatsum in his arms, uncaring of the blood both his own or otherwise splattering his form. Are you fine? Sorry, I was so slow. Hatsum whispered. First Adato no Hatsum started to cry as Izuku picked her up, wrapping her in a tight embrace, his own tears falling onto her shoulder. Hey, you okay? Izuku blinked away tears, looking up at Aqua's concerned face. Fine, I never killed anyone before, and they're all. Who's dead? What, her? Yeah, she's supposed to be. Don't worry about it, I never liked her anyway. You did good. Izuku gritted his teeth. Damn this idiotic, worthless goddess. No, my head. Boys groaned. Young lord, are you well? Izuku blinked. Hadn't he seen the man's skull shattered? There don't appear to be any more of them, my lord, Sir Jacques said. What in the name of all the gods did that to her? That was an excellent use of explosion. Megumin cried as Sir Leonard brought her over, setting the excited proto-goddess down next to Izuku. I knew you would make an excellent high priestess. We've got to work on your chant, though. That one was just weird letters and numbers. You can do better. But you were all dead. Izuku whispered, looking around wide-eyed, and with Anton seemed to be salvaging something. The only sign of his former injuries was his ruined breastplate, which he'd now taken off. Oh, that. Please, Aqua giggled. Raising a few dead people is easy for a goddess like me. Don't worry, though, I won't raise her. PFFFT. Queen of the Wolves. More like Queen of the Gaping Chest Wound, right? You mean you're all okay? Hatsum croaked as Izuku held her upright. Yes, thanks to this goddess we are. And you, Lady Hatsum, Lord Midoriya. Boys said, bowing his head to them. Without you, we would have been slaughtered where we stood. Damn me, but we were slaughtered. Thank you, Lady Aqua, thank you. Yeah, I still didn't get any XP, Aqua grumbled. Did you? Izuku could only laugh. It was a bright, horribly broken, and relieved. These goddesses might be crazy, but Izuku couldn't think of a single reason why just then.
Okay, time to protect rate.
Seriously, why couldn't we just stay at the inn? I know you have enough money for it. Kazuma complained as they yet again set up their campsite just outside of town. Inns cost money, and you'd want to buy dinner, and then you'd start drinking and ogle the serving maids. We just don't have the funds for all of that in our budget, Uraka said primly as she brushed down her hair. Of course I'd want a drink and hot dinner, Kazuma ranted as he stacked wood for. We've had nothing but my rations and cold water to drink for a week. A room and a meal at that inn was 25 pfennig. There's 100 pfennig and 1 mark, and you've got 25, 23, and 40 pfennig. We did have to buy some supplies so far, and that's put a drain on our funds, Uraka corrected. So we could literally stay at an inn for 3 weeks. Hell, we could even splurge and buy ourselves a round of ale, Kazuma argued. There is no need for such frivolities, Uraka stated. That's why I'm in charge of the money, and you are not. Kazuma glared at Uraka, then looked to Darkness and Takayami, who were setting up tents. What about you two? Don't you want to stay at an inn for the night? You know, get a bath for the first time in days. It would be nice not to have to sleep on the ground for once, Takayami. Plus, it would be easier for. Then we should not. We need Dark Shadow to be strong. Then she blushed and looked down. But, I would not mind sleeping in a bed and having a bath for once. Are you people crazy? Money does not grow on trees. Uraka snapped. I mean, I bet I could earn some money. Or, just steal it, Kazuma pointed out. What do you say, play rock, paper, scissors for it? I'll even say I have to win. No, and that's final. Uraka huffed. We're not staying at an inn. You'd do something lewd, Darkness would start a fight just to get beat up a little, and Takayami would scare everyone because they think he looks like a monster. So Kazuma narrowed his eyes. You know, my fingers are getting real itchy. I might just feel a steal coming on. Maybe I'll steal that money from you. Maybe I'll get some panties for my collection. Either way, I'll get what I want. Steal my panties again and you'll wake up so high up off the earth that you'll die of oxygen deprivation. Uraka firmly informed him. Fine, have it your way. See, Kazuma. He did, of course, end up giving Uraka some bread rolls. After all, she had the jerky and dried fruit that she doled out to go with her meal. She was adamant that they needed proper nutrition, but refused to buy one more item of food than absolutely necessary. Freaking Scrooge. Kazuma complained. Scrooge, Darkness asked. Kazuma glanced at Takayami, who. What don't you guys celebrate, Kazuma? He suddenly raised his voice, glaring at Uraraka, because someone's going to end up as a Christmas cake. Boyfriends are expensive, and so are cakes. They are a waste of money, Uraraka told him. Unbelievable, Kazuma groused. He eyed Takayami in Darkness. Want to play cards or something? Pass, even if we are not gambling anything. I see no reason to lose to you over and over. Takayami, you cheat. Dark Shadow. I don't cheat, Kazuma. My luck is just really high. Well, we should at least train then, Darkness said, brushing off her clothes and standing. Kazuma, why, you'll just stand there and get hit like usual, Kazuma complained. Fine, it's more fun than just sitting around waiting for the sun to set. As usual, Darkness just charged in, sword raised, no subtle. Kazuma lazily moved to the side to dodge, expecting Darkness's attack to be off by a mile. At the last second, his evasion skill activated, and he moved just the barest fraction of an inch to the side so that Darkness didn't cleave him in half, instead slicing his cloak. What the hell, Kazuma? You almost killed me. I am sorry, Kazuma. I thought, but my blows never land, Darkness said, looking as shocked as Kazuma was. That's weird, Kazuma agreed. He frowned, raising Chunchanmar. Guess I'll have to take this a bit more seriously. He and Darkness fought back and forth for a while, and to Kazuma's shock, he had to actually stay on his toes, dodging and parrying her attacks. She managed to block a few of his lazier blows as well, which was something new. When they stepped back from one another, panting, Kazuma cocked his head to one side. Did you, I don't know, take the two-handed sword skill when I wasn't looking? And then, no, I didn't, I swear. Darkness protested, flushing bright red. Kazuma held, hey, it's cool, I'm actually pretty impressed. I mean, you were already practically indestructible, so branching out and getting a little offensive ability is nice. No, but Kazuma, the strangest thing has been happening, Darkness said, holding her sword up and looking at it with an odd expression. It's like the more I use this sword, the better I seem to become with it. It's as if by practicing with it, my skills are actually improving. Weird, Kazuma said, using Chanchimaru to scratch at his side. Darkness, that's sort of how practice works, Takuyami said, looking bemused. Why else would you drill with your sword each night? Exercise, but mostly because I enjoy it, Darkness admitted. It is a sort of game to me. You mean you seriously never learned how to use that sword after hundreds of years? Uraraka asked. No, I stopped earning experience and skill points when I died, and I had already invested all of them, Darkness explained. I still practiced, of course, but there was more to maintain my physical fitness. What I did pick up in the Divine Realm were all defensive-related skills that improved my durability, though I don't know if they were from exercise. Yeah, I mean, I sort of never bothered because the stat increases you get from exercise taper off pretty quickly after a certain point. You can get a slight bonus, but it's really not worth it for the effort you have to put in, Kazuma said with a shrug. He held up Chanchimaru, frowning. I wonder, could I learn advanced sword techniques just by practicing over and over? You only have the basic one-handed sword skill, correct? Darkness asked. Kazuma nodded. Yet adventurers have to spend too many points to unlock more advanced martial skills. But I can use pretty much any weapon, okay? You lived in that wacky world way too long, Kazuma. Uraraka sighed. You forgot how reality works. I mean, that is how reality works there anyway. It's just I dunno, different logic. Honestly, it feels more like home now than Japan ever did, Kazuma admitted. Well, I guess I should practice with you too then. Wouldn't want to be the useless one in the party now, would I? Uraraka laughed, standing and drawing her own sword. Later that night, Kazuma was sitting on a tree stump, whittling with his knife. There were a few hours left until dawn, and he had the last watch. Doing something with his hands helped keep him awake and alert as he used his skills to look for any approaching danger. Kazuma was carving a small cat with little bat wings, smiling to himself. Chamask had never really turned into a cute cat girl, but he still missed the little demon thing. He heard a noise behind him, but didn't look over, recognizing the sound of Darkness getting up. He figured she had to use a bush until she walked over to him. Kazuma scooted over on the stump, making room for her. Something on your mind? He asked, not looking up. Darkness couldn't see him anyway, not with the moon already set. Kazuma, I'm scared, Darkness said quietly as she sat next to him. It got Kazuma's attention. Darkness had charged the Devil King with a smile on her face. She'd fought that insane lily vampire to the bitter end without a single look of despair. He looked up, carefully sheathing his knife and pocketing the half-finished carving. Yeah, what's up? This world, it doesn't work like the one I'm used to, Kazuma, Darkness whispered. Kazuma could see her hugging herself, her legs drawn up protectively. Her eyes were big and wet, and she looked more like a lost child than a stalwart knight just then. What if I can't protect you all here? Kazuma reached out, putting an arm around Darkness' shoulders. She let out a soft sob and rested her head on his shoulder. He patted her leg affectionately. Hey, that right there. That's pure muscle. Darkness let out a half whimper, half laugh at that. You brute. No, no, listen. You're literally the strongest person I know. I mean that. And in case you don't remember, I know some literal deities. None of them are as tough as you. And remember when you charged right into the Duke of Terror's den and saved Edgebird? And just the other day, when that bear attacked us and you literally tackled it while jumping off a galloping horse? Yes, Darkness admitted. I don't know. Things are different here. What to know something? Something I never told anyone? Not even Megumin? Kazuma asked. Darkness nodded, shifting to sit back up and smoothing her hair back down. For the first couple months after I died and came to your world the first time, I was terrified. Like cry myself to sleep most nights scared. Oh sure, I tried to act tough, especially since Aqua was there, but remember I was a NEET. I almost never left my parents' house, and I certainly never went anywhere new or strange. And yet there I was, sleeping in a stable, doing day labor, and there was this insane, stupid goddess sleeping next to me. You were truly so frightened. I never saw that in you, Darkness said, leaning in close to peer at Kazuma's face in the dim starlight. You would cry and moan and even try to flee at times, but I never saw dread in you. Scariest time of my life, Kazuma confirmed. I mean, sure, I talked about wanting to live in a video game world, but actually doing it scared the hell out of me. Darkness turned, looking over to where Uraka was softly snoring and Takayami was lying with his head tucked under one arm, dark shadow wrapped around him like an ominous blanket. What about them? Uraka cries herself to sleep most nights. She's quiet about it, but she does. I hear her whimpering and asking for her mom. Kazuma said quietly. Takayami, well, he's got you. You really like him, don't you? Even without his night vision, Kazuma would have known the Darkness was blushing when she whispered, I do. He is kind, but also so dangerous. Gentle, but also a brute. His is very strange, and yet I think I am growing fond of him. I am still Darkness, the perverted, useless night. However, I am not the Darkness I was. I still enjoy rough treatment, but now I think I need something more. You showed me that a man could be crude and brutal while still being sensitive and loving, Kazuma. Oh, gee, thanks. Talk about a backhanded compliment. Kazuma deadpanned. They sat together in the dark for a few minutes, listening to the sounds of insects and other nightlife. At last, Darkness sighed and stood. Thank you, Kazuma. You're a good friend. Yeah, you too, Darkness. Oh, and Lalatina. What as she snapped, irritated at the use of her proper name as usual. I feel a lot safer knowing you're here with me. Her irritation melted and began to smile warmly, nodding slowly back. I do as well, strange as it may seem. You being here it just feels right somehow. Yet just missing one delusional mage and a useless goddess. Kazuma sighed, taking his knife and figuring out. Get some rest. Sun's up in an hour. We should be in Hopstadt by midday. Breakfast was barley porridge conjured by Kazuma, which while filling was pretty damn boring. At least it was hopefully their last day of trail rations, no matter what Uraka said. The city of Hopstadt was set astride a large river, with the center of the city built atop a large hill with a massive fortress at the top. Great stone walls of dark granite encircled most of the city, though more recent buildings seemed to have sprung up outside the walls. Farmland surrounded the city, endless fields of grains, vegetables, and vast orchards that extended for miles around the city. As Kazuma's party came out of the wooded foothills, he saw more and more travelers. At first it was simple merchants, along with pack beasts or caravans together with carts and guards, but as they entered the plains, they saw more and more weary, dejected souls carrying what little they owned on their back. They moved in family groups or in ones and twos, people with sunken eyes and bearing seeping wounds. Some sat beside the road, clearly having gone as far as they could. Kazuma tried to maintain a jovial attitude, joking and laughing with his companions, but his heart finally broke when he saw a woman with dull, empty eyes carrying a baby in her arms and a toddler on her back, leaving bloody footprints behind her. That was too much, even if she was just an NPC. Hey, wait up a sec, Kazuma called, hopping off his horse. The woman flinched at his call, shying away from him. Don't want no trouble, she muttered. Don't got nothing left. Yeah, I can tell. Here, you look hungry. Create rations. Kazuma held out the flatbread he made to her, and the woman's eyes widened. She quickly grabbed it and took a greedy bite, then got her son off her back to offer him some. Tea, thank you, she sniffed. Yeah, hold still a moment. Bless her heel. Here, let me see that blanket. Craft, I know it's not much, but these sandals will help you, Kazuma said, handing his creation back to her. The woman gazed at Kazuma with wonder as her child happily devoured the flatbread. Who are you, my lord? Just a boring old low-level adventurer, Kazuma told her, smiling. You gonna be okay? Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. The woman wept. Mind telling me what happened to you? Kazuma asked quietly. Darkness and the other had dismounted, and were also now sharing what little supplies they had with other refugees who were now starting to crowd around them. They came out of nowhere, the woman told him. Monsters. Hordes of them. They were beasts of all different kinds and shapes. I'd heard tell of such things, but the Kaiser and the nobles were supposed to have driven them off ages ago. We got the occasional dire boar or night stalker, true, but things were all right. Baron von Metzer and his men, they were slaughtered. They started burning things, killing. They were led by a woman who ran with wolves. She tortured Father Claris and was demanding to know what he knew of some goddess, not Psyche Dio or one I'd ever heard of. Said she was a water goddess, I think. Then they just left. But it was all gone. My husband, our oldest daughter, all dead. Water goddess. Kazuma asked, feeling a chill. Not Aqua. Could have been. I didn't get close enough to hear, thanks Psyche Dio. We've been headed for the capital ever since, hoping we'd be safe there. The woman explained. Lord, do you have more food? Kazuma turned to see a girl about his age, or rather the age he thought of himself as. She'd have been cute if it wasn't for the bruises on her face and the burned smell on her. One arm was wrapped in a makeshift sling, the other holding the hand of a young boy. Yeah, here, create rations. Lesser heal. In the end, Kazuma had to use Drain Touch and Darkness 3 times to tap into her nearly limitless stamina to manage to feed even half the refugees that were now packing the roadway. Uraka ended up passing out all of the stores of food she had along with the medicine she'd bought to treat minor injuries. Takayami stayed off to the side with the horses, the refugees looking at him warily. What's this then? A voice called, and Kazuma turned to see armored knights and horseback approaching. They'd stopped at a crossroads and traffic was backed up in many directions now. Move out of the road if you are wearied. There's food, shelter, and medicine given by the Kaiser ahead. Make way for the wagons. You there, knight? What is the meaning of this? Darkness turned to the female knight who had reined up close to her, a helmet with a jet black plum under one arm. I am Lady Lalaton for Dustiness, knight of the goddess Eris and champion of the divine realm. Darkness answered, the playfulness and perversion gone from her tone. She was a noblewoman to the hilt now, hand on her sword back straight. We have been sent by the goddess to cleanse the taint of the lord of the tomb from this land. These are my companions, His Grace Sato Kazuma, the Devil King's Bane, Achako Uraka of Japan, and Fumikich Takayami of the Dark Shadow. Hey, sup, Kazuma said with a jaunty 2-fingered salute. He forced a smile on his face, despite how tired he felt. Even with those drain touches, his MP was low, and using his skills this much took a lot out of him. Then the rumors were true. The Lady Knight dismounted and knelt. I am Ritter for Angela von Rusting. We have had word of your coming from Baroness von Galen. We were sent to look for you. Please come with me. Do not fear, however, these good folks shall be seen to. They are under the Kaiser's protection. Upon seeing the rather lacking condition of Kazuma's party's mounts, von Rustang ordered 4 of her knights to dismount, giving their much superior horses in exchange. Those horses were ours, though, Uraka muttered. They can't be cheap. If you have need of mounts, Lady Uraka, we shall provide, fear not. Von Rustang promised. But now, time is of the essence. The enemy advances upon us even now, and we know not how to stop them. Come, they rode off at a fast pace, making good time as the refugees and merchants moved aside for the column of knights to pass. They entered the city gates with only a minor pause while the guards checked documents, but the Baroness's letter and von Rustang's insistence of its authenticity got them through quickly enough. Inside of the city, the atmosphere was just as grim. The soldiers marched the streets in full armor, and the civilians looked harried. Refugees were seemingly everywhere there was space, taking up positions around street corners and alleys, and though the streets were clean, there was an aura of desperation and sickness to the air. Kazuma swallowed, feeling nervous again. Even in the darkest hour, Belzerk hadn't looked this bad. Not even when the Devil King's minions had practically been at the gates. They made their way up to the citadel, where there was a more thorough inspection of documents. A divine hero. You look like a group of children. Only this Lady Dustiness looks old enough to serve in the Kaiser's army, the captain of the guards said, glaring at Kazuma. Yeah, well, I got one thing to say to that, Kazuma said. He raised one hand. Create water. The captain let out a gasp of surprise as the water splashed over him, which made Kazuma smirk, but the next thing he knew, darkness had shoved him behind her. A dozen spears and swords were pointed at them. What sorcery is this? The captain coughed. This is the same sort of foul magic those invaders possess. It is harmless, only good drinking water. Darkness snarled, her fingers twitching on her sword hilt. My companion is weary from travel. He sought only to prove the credentials you doubted. Captain, are you well? One of the soldiers asked. The man wiped at his face, frowning. He sniffed some of the liquid on his fingers, then tasted it. It appears harmless. Call the priests, check them over. Their infiltrators have caused us enough harm. Geez, it was just a prank. Kazuma muttered as two men in robes approached with censers burning incense, chanting. I think they don't like jokes here very much. Uraka said, her voice strained as she looked at the various weapons centimeters from her body. Harm one hair on any of their heads, and you shall pay for it in blood. Takoyami vowed, dark shadow hissing menacingly as it blocked the weapons pointed towards him. This one has to be some sort of demon, one of the priests said, raising his censer. Dark shadow hissed at him, but the smoke wafted over the manifestation harmlessly. Demon he may be, but he is mine and bound to me. Takoyami informed the priest. So long as I live, he fights only for justice. And birdseed, dark shadows squawked. They appear to be human, strange as it may sound, Captain. The priest finally decided, after having chanted several spells and casting glowing lights to pass over Kazuma and his party. Though it is said these new foes have powerful anti-magic abilities, oh, come on, if we were evil or something, we'd have cleaned the floor with you already. Kazuma protested. Those spears look like they're not even magical, just regular old iron and steel. Darkness armor is adamantwa, and so is her sword. They just bounce off her. And if I were really serious, I'd just use a bunch of magic and wreck you scrubs before you could do anything. They were found passing out food and offering healing to refugees. I do not think them to be spies, or they would not have drawn so much attention to themselves, Von Rusting pointed out. Their magic is strange, though, to be sure. They do claim to be from the divine realm and the holy land of Japan. Well, perhaps, the captain admitted. He bowed stiffly. Forgive me, my lords and ladies. These are trying times. Slowly, the weapons were lowered, and Kazuma and his party were allowed to enter into the fortress proper, if still under watch. More soldiers were drilling on the grounds, and there were dozens of messengers running back and forth delivering news to and from the town. Geez, what the hell happened here? You people have a war or something? Kazuma wondered aloud, seeing yet another soldier nursing an injury as he stood vigil. Yes, and we are losing, Von Rusting said grimly. They were led up the steps of the main keep and into a great hall that was filled with armored nobles, mages in robes, and priests in vestments. All were talking quietly, pointing at maps or pieces of parchment, or going about assigned tasks. Your weapons, a final guard asked, holding out his hand as they crossed the threshold. Darkness looked at Kazuma, who shrugged. What the hell? Not like you can disarm Birdbrain anyway. He reluctantly handed over his sword, slingshot, and knife. He kept the dynamite. Hey, don't lose that. Chunchimaru is special to me, okay? The guard blinked, examining the weapon in his hand. You claim this is Chunchimaru. Hey, don't make fun of that. Someone very special to me named it, even if it does. Kazuma, silly, perhaps it is foolish to name your sword after the legendary singing blade of the Red Witch, the guard chuckled. Go on, boy, you're not the first to give their blade an overly important name. That made Kazuma pause in his prepared defense. Wait, you know about Chunchimaru? The guard rolled his eyes. Of course, everyone knows the story of the legendary blade gifted to a mortal man by the Red Witch. The one said to have been wielded by a divine champion to defeat the Lindworm of the North 200 years ago. Wait, did she? Kazuma considered, then groaned. Oh my God. She told me, Darkness told Kazuma as she passed over her. Though usually she only consented to gift potential, she could have at least not named it after my sword. Fine, whatever, but just so you know, that's the original. And it didn't slay some dumb worm that killed the Devil King. You sure these are them Ritter for? Another, I do not know. but they certainly have strange powers, so perhaps that is in at the head of the main hall, an elderly man in a simple military uniform sat in a utilitarian-looking throne as a group of advisors talked to him. He waved them away, however, as Kazuma approached. He nodded to the party, his expression worried but tinged with hope. "Are these the ones, then?" "Yeah, I'm Kazuma. This is Darkness, Uraraka, and Takayami," Kazuma said, not waiting for introductions. "I guess you're the Kaiser. Yeah, we're here to kill the Lord of the Tomb, or whatever." Such bold words. The old man chuckled. "But I am no longer the Kaiser, merely his grandfather." "What, you retire or something?" Kazuma demanded. "I'm Kazuma, don't you remember?" Darkness whispered. "The Kaiser has to abdicate if he can no longer defend the realm with his blade. It was in our briefing. PFFF, I always skip the quest dialogue," Kazuma said with a shrug. "Then maybe you should shut up and let Darkness do the talking, since you know she's actually a noble instead of a neat from Nagano," Uraraka said, poking Kazuma in his ribs. Kazuma winced. He never should have let that slip. "Fine, whatever. Please forgive my friend's rudeness. He is not used to dealing with mortals after many long years in the divine realm," Darkness said, bowing slightly. "I will forgive much if you are indeed here to kill those devils, their army," a brisk new voice declared, and Kazuma turned to see a young man and a well-made but still simple military man striding towards them. As he passed, people inclined their heads to him. "You are here," the retired Kaiser said, making the stand from the throne. "No, stay where you are, grandfather. You have more need for a seat than I." The young man stopped in front of Kazuma's party, eyeing them critically. Then he clicked his heels together. "I'm Kaiser Frederick von Varentwortlicher. Aren't you a bit young to be a king or whatever?" Kazuma asked, folding his arms. The kid looked to be the same age as Uraraka and Takayami, no more than 16, with green eyes and light brown hair. He was good-looking, Kazuma supposed, but he also looked like a total killjoy. "I am. But as my father and elder sister died on the field a week past, it seems that I am now the leader of Kernogrive," Frederick answered icily. Kazuma jerked, then blushed. "Oh, sorry to hear that, Your Majesty." "Kazuma," Takayami said, "please shut up." Kazuma made a lip lock and throw away the key motion, smiling at Frederick, who seemed utterly unamused. "Come with me," he ordered, and turned and walked out of the main hall. Kazuma glanced over at Darkness, who shook her head, her lips pursed in irritation, probably at him. They followed after Frederick, a group of guards falling in with them. They were led through a few corridors to an open courtyard where several robed mages were waiting. "You claim to be sent by the gods to defeat this foe. Very well. Prove it," Frederick said, taking up a sword. He motioned to Darkness. "You seem to be a knight. Take up a blade and fight. Show me your skill." I am more of a shield," Darkness said, looking nervous. "You can take him," Kazuma encouraged. "No, let me," Uraraka said, stepping forward. "I got this, Darkness. You sure hot stuff?" Kazuma asked, frowning at Uraraka as she stepped forward. "Yes," Uraraka said, grinning and spreading her arms wide. "It's my turn to show what I can do." "Then take up a blade," Frederick snapped. "Don't need one. I'm not very good yet. It would just slow me down," Uraraka said. HMPH. With that, the Kaiser lunged forward, striking like a viper. Uraraka pivoted to the side, slapping the blade with one hand as she dodged. The Kaiser flicked it after her, but his blow went high and wild, a look of confusion on his face for a moment as he stumbled, thrown off by the sudden change of weight. Uraraka simply tapped him with her fingers on the arm and stepped away. HMPH, a trick, but it will not. Frederick looked baffled as he slowly floated up into the air. "What in the name of all anti-gravity might work? All it takes is one touch, and you're helpless," Uraraka said, looking smug. "You want to give up yet?" "No," Frederick growled. He flailed about in there. "Very good. Can you get him easily?" Dark shadow shot up, grabbing Frederick and bringing him back to the ground. "Release," Uraraka said, touching her fingers together. She smiled happily. "Now do you believe us?" "I am more inclined to," Frederick admitted, his earlier irritation gone in favor of a more doleful expression. "Archmage Denker, test their mage." Of course, your highness, a gray-bearded man said, stepping. That's you, Kazuma? Uraka said. Yeah, Kazuma said with a sigh. Hey, Darkness. Little help. Oh, of course, Darkness said, giving Kazuma her hand. Thanks, Drain Touch. Kazuma, right, that's enough, I'm good. He sauntered out to the floor, where the Denker was stroking his beard, looking thoughtful. Right, usual rules for a skill off. I'm not familiar with this skill off. How does... Well, we don't want to, kill anybody, so we just see who knows the most spells. First one to come up dry on a new one loses. No muss, no Kazuma. Having a simple test similar to the one for Archmagus. Denker mused. He nodded. I accept. As host, I shall go first. He waved his hands in the air, muttering under his breath, until a bolt of electricity crackled out of his fingertips, striking the ground. All that for spark? Kazuma asked, pointing one finger at the floor so that his own bolt discharged to about the same place Denker's head. Denker's eyebrows shot up. Not as potent as mine, I think, but to need so short an incantation very well. They went back and forth for a few minutes, Kazuma copying everything Denker managed. They flung about some fire, made a gust of wind chill the ground, caused a seed to sprout and grow quickly, and made phantom noises and lights. Getting tired, old man, Kazuma taunted as Denker hesitated before his next spell. A moment. I'll spot you, Kazuma said before a servant could hurry forward. He took out his canteen, a pen, create. Once it was full, create rations. He handed one of the right. I like this. Nobody gets hurt and we get snacks, Kazuma said around a mouthful. Denker cautiously sipped the water, then bit into the rice ball. He chewed, then swallowed, shaking his head. He turned to Frederick. Your Majesty, I must concede this boy is an archmagus of surpassing skill. Were these all the spells he knows, which I think unlikely, given how easily he matched me, he would be one of the strongest in the entire Reich, if not the world. So I see, Frederick said with a slow nod. He bowed stiffly to Kazuma. I apologize. The death of my father, the former Kaiser, and my elder sister, the Arid, has left me in a foul mood as of late. Hey, it's okay, Kazuma said with a shrug. He grimaced. We saw the refugees. Things are getting pretty bad, huh? If the gods themselves must send their greatest champions to aid us, they must be. Frederick agreed. Please, we shall do whatever we can to aid you heroes. My realm is at your disposal. Great, Kazuma said. Slowly, a goofy grin started to spread across his face. Say, do you have mixed baths here?
Okay, this is me chapter, let's see. This is really... This might be not my condition. Nope, it's chapter 8. Chapter 8. Oh, I mixed up the chapter timing, probably. No, I can't tell what chapter this is, but let's continue then.
There was a knock on Izuku's door, and he bolted upright, panting and sweating. He'd been reliving the fight with the Wolf Queen, only this time Aqua hadn't been able to save everyone. He glanced out his window, but it was dark, still night. With a grunt, he got out of bed and carefully opened the door. Standing there was Hatsum, dressed in a robe and clutching her crossbow, pale-faced and with puffy cheeks, her yellow eyes reddened from crying. Midoriya. Yes, Izuku said, opening the door a bit wider. Can I sleep in your room tonight? Hatsum whispered, trembling slightly. I had bad dreams. For a moment, Izuku hesitated. It really was improper, and he'd had to do some convincing to get them both separate rooms in the first place. But Hatsum wasn't the only one having a bad night. Yeah, okay, Izuku agreed, opening the door completely. Hatsum stepped inside, only to press her face against Izuku's chest and clutch him tightly. I want to go home. Gently, Izuku put his arms around Hatsum, feeling tears begin to fill his own eyes. He sniffled, trying to keep his voice steady. Yeah, me too. Izuku had to convince Hatsum to leave the crossbow on the nightstand, but when he tried to lie down on the floor, she simply hopped out of bed to huddle up next to him. Don't you not want me to be in the same bed as you? Izuku asked as Hatsum shivered against him. The night was warm, but she was clearly terrified. I don't want to be by myself, Hatsum told him. Mom and Daddy and Hari aren't here. But you are? Yeah, okay. Izuku sighed. But we shouldn't sleep on the floor then. Okay, Hatsum snuggled up tight to Izuku, clutching him tightly. After a moment, she shifted, looking down curiously. What's that? Izuku felt himself flush. I'm sorry. I'm not a pervert, it's just. Oh, is that your boy thing? How'd it get so hard? Hatsum asked, suddenly interested, before trying to poke it. Dee, don't do that. Izuku gasped. It's sensitive. Oh, sorry. Do you need aqua to heal you? Hatsum asked. No, it's just, look, you're a girl, and I'm a boy, and, well. Hatsum blinked, her yellow eyes glowing in the dim light, showing Izuku quite clearly the small crosshairs around her pupils. Yes, that is true. But we can talk about that later. I am sleepy. And then she just dozed off, still holding tight to Izuku. It was a long time before his heart stopped pounding, and he too managed to sleep, but this time he dreamed of far more pleasant things than before. That morning at breakfast, Aqua and Megumin trod down the stairs to sit with Izuku and Mei up early for once. Good morning, Aqua yawned. She then smiled mischievously at Izuku, looking far too much like the cat who got the mouse. Did you two have fun last night? I know we didn't. Izuku trailed off with a strangled noise, unable to continue. We didn't do what? Mei asked, looking up from her glazed rolls. We just, slept, Izuku said lamely. I hadn't. Izuku helped them go, HMPH. So you passed the final frontier, did you? Megumin said, glaring at Izuku from her slumped position, clearly disgusted by his antics. Or was that the light of jealousy in her eyes instead? No, we just, Hatsum couldn't sleep, and, well, I was Izuku, are you okay? Hatsum asked, looking worried. She glared at Aqua and Megumin. You be nice to him. I do not know why you are being so mean. Izuku has been very kind. He even beat the bad guy up, and he gives nice hugs. Sure you weren't after more than a hug. Aqua Hatsum frowned, said, what else would I be after? You're a girl, he's a boy. I guess if you're into the stuttering nerdy type, he's okay. I'm happy for you, Megumin said through gritted teeth. Izuku said the same thing last night. Why does it matter if he is a boy and I am a girl? We're both people, Hatsum said. Aqua blinked at her. You two did have sex, right? You've been awfully close since we got here. Oh yes, sex. No, we did not kiss, Hatsum said and went back to munching on her roll. Aqua and Megumin gaped at Hatsum while Izuku tried to sink down in his seat enough to disappear. Hatsum, sex isn't kissing, Megumin said, rolling her eyes. You can kiss your parents or your sister. You do the horizontal hula. Aqua laughed. What does dancing have to do with kissing? Hatsum asked, face blank and uncomprehending. Izuku, meanwhile, was busy choking on his food before Hatsum started pounding his back until he coughed. No, but I would not mind if Izuku kissed me. I have not wanted a boy to kiss me before, but he is nice. Hatsum stated matter-of-factly, which nearly made Izuku start a new coughing fit. You really don't know? Aqua asked, sounding shocked. I am an expert on love, Megumin proclaimed, as I have a tale of tragic romance in my past. You see, just as my lover, Kazuma, and I were about to consummate our oh, give it a rest. You're still a virgin, neat, just like Kazuma. Aqua interrupted, rolling her eyes. Listen to a real expert on the subject. You see, when a boy Hatsum interjected, I am, yes, so you and Izuku. Megumin held up her hands, making a circle with one and sticking her finger through it and moving it in and out. What is? Hatsum copied the gesture until Izuku let out a sob and buried his head in his hands. Midoriya. Look, you're not listening to me. Aqua said, no, humans were produced by making babies. Hatsum, the male and How do you know what coitus is? But Izuku groaned. Sex is what happens in movies and stuff. My dad said so. He said it was super gross, and I wouldn't like it, and yeah, so you know, Izuku's holy sword goes into Megumin. Yes, exactly. Aqua, and that's what you and Izuku have been, HMPH. Megumin sniffed. You don't know? Of course I do. I'm a god, Aqua argued. Yeah, but you're a goddess, so you don't even have sex. Megumin snapped, turning around and glaring at Aqua. Kazuma even said he was never even interested in you. That's because I'm far too beautiful for mortals. Aqua sighed dramatically, putting her hand to her chest. Then she grimaced. Besides, Hatsum is totally right. Sex is super icky. I don't know why you mortals like it so much, but I need more followers, so I do have to encourage people to get busy. What? No, it's amazing and wonderful, an expression of true love. I have longed for the day I can hold my lover in my arms and finally go past the point of no return together. Megumin argued, standing up and shouting, her face going nearly as scarlet as her eyes as she panted like a wild animal. PFF, like you would know. Listen, if you're going to become a real goddess, you're going to have to give up on all that stuff. If we have kids with mortal men, we become mortal and lose all our divine powers. You know that, right? Aqua said, rolling her eyes at Megumin's antics. That's what happened to poor Ristar. Fell for a hero she summoned and ended up going full native. But then, of course, upper management thought it was sweet, and also she made both of them back into gods in the end. But she got old and gross and died. Who'd want to do that? W what? Megumin cried, clutching. You mean me and Kazoo? Oh, relax. He's still in the Aqua said, dismissed. Trust me, being a goddess is way better. Having followers who worship you and give you offerings is the best. Of course, you have to take care of them and keep them safe. But that's kind of fun because then they know how awesome you are. Unia, that treacherous big-titted Uo. Kazuma. Megumin leapt up on top of the table, sending platters and cups crashing to the floor. She raised her fist to the sky and screamed, "You'd better not be putting the moves on poor Union while I'm gone. You keep your hands to yourself, mister, or so help me out." Handsome. Izuku whispered. Can we talk? Outside alone? Sure, she's just making a mess and I'm full anyway, but we have to hurry because I want to make some more babies to help us if more bad guys come, Hatcham declared. Damn it, Megumin, you got food all over me. Come down from there and stop yelling. Kazuma can't hear you. Aqua shouted, trying and failing to drag her friend off the table. If you give in to big busted temptation, I am deleting all your save files and transferring your items to my Megumin ranted as she I'll explode your computer. I'll draw on your Izuku shut the door behind him, sighing and glad that the rant was muffled by the thick wood. He then glanced around, seeing the nervous Inky. They're just, Izuku said, laughed. They're talking about sex and stuff, Hatsum said. Apparently, there is a Izuku nervously chuckled mid-orient. Hatsum, I was talking to them, and that's what I wanted to talk in. Oh, Hatsum, you look very, no, I just. Izuku shut the door then behind them, then slumped to the Hatsum crouched beside him, looking. I'm sorry, it's okay, Izuku said. First, I'm not very good with social skills either. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Izuku leaned back. Yes, Hatsum. Mom and Dad were always worried I did not have any friends, except my babies, of course. But now I know you, and you are a person, which is what they wanted. No, I mean, yeah, very nice. Hatsum said serious. I like to touch them and when you give me hugs. It is not like when Dad gives me hugs. I feel nice when you hug me, too. Look, I'm really bad at this, but, Hatsum, I think Kyra like Willie Abba, my girlfriend. Hatsum narrowed her eyes at Izuku, and his heart felt like it was about to jump out of his chest and flop in the. Then she smiled. Oh, maybe. Izuku squeaked. He was not ready for it when Hatsum suddenly grabbed him by the tunic and pulled his face to hers, pressing her lips to his. Slowly, Izuku reached up, putting his arms around Hatsum. After what felt like both a very long time and not long enough, they broke apart, panting. MMMM. Yes, why you mean it? Izuku managed. Yes, I like that. Well, Hatsum said. Hatsum, I mean, should I call you May now? Why, yes, if we're gonna be dating. But, look, we just kissed. We didn't, well, we didn't have sex. Izuku, oh, but we said we are boyfriend and girlfriend and kissed, and now we can have fun together, like making babies. I have lots of ideas. No, or listen, sex, that's what people say when they mean, coitus. And, that's sort what married people do and stuff. When they make, human babies, wait, there is more than just kissing. May jolted upward, pulling his with her. You are going to have to explain. I got only a C in biology. I did not like it as much as chemistry and physics, and so Izuku found himself having perhaps the most when he was done. Yes, that makes sense. And people enjoy this, you say. Well, I mean, I wouldn't know, but that's why when you get close to me, I see. Well, I do not want to have a human baby right now. Well, I mean, yes, I definitely don't want to get you pregnant. Izuku agreed. My parents, well, never mind. The point is you can have sex without getting someone pregnant, Izuku jumped about 2 meters up in the air with a yelp, spun about in mid-flight, and came down facing Aqua, his body crackling wildly with energy. Izuku, you use your quirk without breaking yourself. That is very good. You're getting better, Hatsum said happily, coming over and giving him a hug from behind. Hee, I'm going to make such wonderful babies for you. But what are you talking about, Aqua? I thought the point of yes, but most mortals just have it for Aqua said. That's why we gods made it so you enjoyed it, so you'd make babies and put up with the bother. You just need a simple, that's great, thanks Aqua, bye. Izuku babbled and no, wait, I want to know. I'm saving my Izuku, no sex and, oh, all right. I do not think we are ready to get married yet, Handsome said, letting Izuku go. But we should think about it. Then your boy part would stop misbehaving all the time. But then she trotted off, leaving Izuku alone with a sniggering. It's not funny, Izuku. We just, see, we relaxed, champ. Aqua casually said, draping her arm about his shoulders in a way that would have looked more natural in a drunk businessman and not a teenage-looking goddess. I practice what I preach. All love is good. You're both healthy young adults. You can do whatever you want as long as you both consent. I've even got a Aqua breathed into his ear. Sweat beaded on Izuku's forehead as he fought not to fidget. What's that? Aqua, he swallowed. If you were to become my follower, I'd grant you a spell that would keep Hatsum from getting pregnant. Aqua whispered into his ear. You could do it all night long, Izuku. Why you don't say? Images and sensations from May hugging him at night filled his head involuntarily. He was, so how do I join the Axis Church? Izuku heard himself saying. Curse you teenage hormones. He inwardly screamed. It's super simple. Aqua whipped out a pen and parchment form. Just sign here. You pledge your soul and worship to me, Aqua. You just have to pray to me and when's your, Izuku asked as August 1st. Well, in this world you can just go with half a moon pat, Aqua said, taking the parchment from Izuku and it dissolved into light or possibly his soul, maybe even literally. Izuku shuffled his feet nervously. Oh, okay, so, what do I do now? Just say the holy words. When you require, Izuku blinked. You're serious? Of course. It's a Aqua laughed. The goddess Eris pats her chest. Seriously? An odd sensation made a very sensitive region of Izuku's body tingle, and he let out a gasp. There you go. You can use it as many times a day as you want, but you have to pray to me again before you can use it. It lasts either an hour, or until you know. The thing Kazuma does. Aqua. Oh, Izuku. Listen, you don't need to get a sock. I think Hatsum would probably be happy to help you. Aqua called, laughing as Izuku raced away even faster. As it turned out, Izuku chose neither option, simply going for a run until he was finally able to calm his pounding heart rate down to its usual semi-panic flutter. Izuku tried to process what all had happened in the last not even hour and how he felt about it. He liked Hatsum, he really did, but everything was moving way too fast for Izuku's comfort. They'd only known each other for a few weeks, but now Izuku was confessing to this girl and asking her out. Combined with the fear and other horrible thoughts that had been swirling around them during the same time frame, it was like a roller coaster Izuku desperately wanted to get off of, not even touching on all that other stuff Aqua was trying to pressure him into or had succeeded on. No. He had to take his time. He'd figure this out. It was what he did. After another couple laps around the village, though, Izuku saw a column of horses approaching. He ran to the village entrance, panting slightly and waiting for them to arrive. What is this? New travelers, here to seek my dark power. Izuku turned, seeing Megumin also trotting up to the arrivals, followed by her usual coterie of worshippers. Oh, hey. Yeah, they're probably here for you or Aqua. You two seem really popular lately. The riders reined in before the two of them, and Izuku got a solid look at most of them. They were mostly knights in armor, though there were a couple of people in robes Izuku assumed to be mages. A pretty well-armed group indeed. Hello, Izuku said, bowing slightly. Welcome. I'm Midoriya. This is Megumin. What brings you to the village? Your Lord Midoriya Wolfsbane. The mage in the fanciest robes asked, dismounting and stepping forward. She bowed. Greetings in the name of my uncle, King Charles of House Firm. I am Magus Align Firm. I'm not a. Yes, he is Wolfsbane, slayer of the ferocious demon, Queen of the Wolves. Megumin proclaimed, flinging her cape aside dramatically and raising her staff. Behold, I am Megumin, goddess of the Crimson Demon clan. I am she who will master explosion magic and bring apocalypse to this world by destroying the Lord of the Tomb forever. The mage gasped and suddenly struck a dramatic pose. I greet you, O Megumin, dark goddess of destruction. Behold, I am Malign, master of 8 spells and wielder of dark powers. Izuku closed his eyes and forced himself not to groan aloud. Not bad, not bad, Megumin mused. But you just hold the one pose. Don't be static. You've got to move about, at least a little. A truly dynamic pose both strikes fear into your foes and inspires your allies to jump off a cliff in shame. Izuku muttered. What was that? Megumin asked. No, jumping about is too much. Maybe a little hop at the end, though. Like this? Align asked, springing to the side. Yes, very good. I see already you have converted to my glorious order of the Crimson Demons. Megumin cackled. Yes, my lady, Align said, bowing deeply. Already your priestess has struck great blows against the foes that press upon us. I would ask you for the boon of your mighty explosion magic myself, that I might aid my people. Very well. Kneel, my sister, Megumin said, raising her staff. Align sank to her knees, looking up at Megumin with awe. I grant you my divine power, explosion magic, the greatest of all magic. Megumin intoned, passing her staff over a line and then pressing it gently to her forehead. Let its dark knowledge flow through you. Align gasped as her eyes glowed red. I see it, I feel it, the dark power of destruction. Very good, very good. Megumin took out a piece of parchment and quickly scribbled something down. Here, memorize this, then burn the parchment in secret. When the time comes, speak my holy words, and your foes shall know true destruction. Izuku got a look at the paper, and this time failed to withhold a soft groan. It was all about gazing into the abyss and power erupting forth. It read like something a middle schooler would write on their social media accounts with a picture of them in too much makeup. It didn't even affect the spell itself, from what little he had been able to piece together from Megumin's own ramblings and Aqua's critiques. I shall do as you command, my lady. Thank you. Already our mission is a great success, Align said, kowtowing to Megumin. Yes, well, don't fawn. Crimson demons do not fawn, not even to goddesses. Oh yes, of course, Align said, scrambling to her feet. She was obviously flushed, eyes blazing with a zealous passion, but she smoothed back her fervor for a moment as she fixed her hair and turned to Izuku. Lord Wolfsbane, please, we have come to beg your aid. A large force of monsters, more terrible than any we have ever seen, has attacked our kingdom. Already, the city of Illumage has been put to the torch, and one of our armies defeated in the field. They march now on Kuron, and our forces may not be enough to stop them. You want me to fight an entire army? Izuku gasped, feeling a bit faint at the thought. Not alone you won't, Megumin said, sounding determined. What forces comprise this army? A mixture of insects and undead, my lady. If it were just them, they would be fearsome foes, but their leaders are terrible to behold. They have slain our mightiest maguses and most skilled knights. Even those bearing holy weapons have been vanquished. My cousin, the Duke de Riviere, heir to the throne, was killed along with his entire honor guard when they faced but a single general. Megumin and Izuku shared a look and nodded. Will come. Izuku promised, face set and determined, even as he felt his hand shaking. We came to this world to stop the Lord of the Tomb. And that's just what we'll do. It had long been Kazuma's dream to share a bath with a beautiful woman, to have her scrub his back and exult in the titillation of the scenario, which was why his current situation just felt so wrong. Is something amiss, Kazuma? Darkness asked, pausing in the act Kazuma had so long dreamed of. No, it's just, you still got a smocking body and a great rack. So why does it feel like I dunno, Ak was washing me or something? Kazuma complained. Darkness tissed and shook her head, continuing her cleaning. It is because you are in love, you silly man. Yeah, I guess, Kazuma admitted. Darkness finished, then turned around so that Kazuma could return the favor. This really isn't like the last time we shared a bath. No, but then you thought I was but a dream, didn't you? Darkness laughed. She turned slightly, grinning at Kazuma. Now that I am clearly flesh and blood, how does it feel? Like I'm taking a bath with my big sister. And not my sexy stepsister either. Kazuma sighed. I dunno. We've just been through a lot together. I care for you. Hell, I think I even love you, but as I love you, as my perverted and foolish sibling, Darkness finished for him. Yeah, I guess. So how's it going with Takayami? That made Darkness blush and cover herself, which was pretty pointless because Kazuma really had seen it all and he just wasn't interested anymore. He is, well, let us say that if I were sharing a bath with him, there would be a rather different connotation to it. Darkness chuckled, her voice going throaty and seductive. Oh, knock it off. PFFT, at least one of us is getting late. Kazuma groused. Just make sure you don't get knocked up. Now would be a real inconvenient time for that to happen. We have not, that it is why we provide one another with comfort and pleasure. It is not yet that sort of relationship. I confess I feel slightly guilty, as though I am taking advantage of him. I am a demigod who is hundreds of years old, yet he is only a boy by the reckoning of your people, Darkness explained. I wouldn't worry about it. He's old enough to get married here or back home. I mean back in your home, Kazuma said. Darkness smiled, sighing and relaxing as Kazuma sank back into the water. It is your home too, Kazuma. Now that's wherever you and Megumin are. And well, Aqua too. I actually kind of missed that useless goddess, Kazuma said, shaking his head. Yes, we were something of a failure as an adventuring group once she left, were we not? Darkness looked pained for a moment. We can't fail again, Kazuma. So many people died. Nearly 80% of the world's population, destroyed by the Lord of the Tomb's invasion. Yet it was hard judging people who were my friends, Kazuma admitted. Did you ever, see Iris? Her Majesty vanished, as you well know, Kazuma. Not even Aqua knew what happened to her, Darkness told him, looking solemn. But my father are friends. So many of them died. We have to prevent that here. Yeah, I'm still trying to come up with a plan, honest. It's just the people here, they are so weak. I mean, hell, I'm an archmage to them. I'm just a medium-leveled adventurer, and I wiped the floor with their best knights when we trained. I think we're screwed, Kazuma admitted. Darkness hugged herself, tears welling up in her eyes. Don't say that, Kazuma. There has to be a way. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that uses Uraraka and Takayami. They're tough and strong, both of them. Honestly, they're more powerful than most of the cheat items we gave out. If we've got half a prayer, it's the two of them. Then we shall make the most of what we have. I am with you, Kazuma, to the end. Yeah, just don't make me watch you die again, Darkness, okay? That was the worst day of my life. Kazuma dipped his head in the water, trying to hide the tears. Very well. But do not ask me to look on as you die either, Kazuma. It broke my heart each time before, even knowing we would simply resurrect you, Darkness told him, scooting over to give him a hug. Kazuma returned it, resting his head on her ample chest. Nope, just doesn't do it for me. Damn it, Darkness, you've ruined boobs for me. You cad. And here I thought you were actually in need of comfort. Darkness squawked, dunking Kazuma's head under the water. Then she let out a gasp as he used his free skill. They ended up laughing and splashing one another before finally getting out and drying off. Thank you, Kazuma, I needed that, Darkness said as she pulled on her padded cotton undersuit. Yeah, not just the bath. Kazuma agreed. He held out a fist, which Darkness playfully tapped. Guess I could have picked a worse, ugly older sister. And I could have gotten a far dumber little brother. Though perhaps not one as perverse. Outside, Kazuma found an irate-looking Takayami. You, how dark you sullied Darkness' reputation with. Relax, Edgebird, Kazuma said, patting Takayami on the shoulder. She's like a sister to me. And not a hot stepsister you have a few 8 scenes with. Just my big, dumb sister. She's all yours, pal. I really, Takayami said, looking towards Darkness. She smiled and bent over to gently kiss him on the cheek, a rather chaste gesture for her. What can I say? Perhaps your gentle mannerisms are winning me over. Nah, you're just a big horny slut, Dark Shadow opined. You said it, not me. Kazuma laughed as the two lovers fidgeted. Come on, let's go see what Uraraka's been up to. As it happened, Uraraka had just finished a bath of her own and was sitting in her room studying a book of magic while she dried off her hair. She looked up, smiling at seeing the others. Hey, Takayami, have you read any of these magic spells? They're really easy. Look, Uraraka pointed a finger at a feather sitting on the table beside her. Levitate. Slowly, the feather lifted off into the air, floating around the room for a moment until Uraraka cried, Release. I had not tried. Takayami admitted. He pointed his own finger at the feather. Levitate. This time, nothing happened. Wait, here this talks about how to concentrate your will and apply it to the physical world, Uraraka said, hurrying over with the book. I've only got the one spell so far, but I think I could learn a bunch of magic. Maybe, Kazuma said, picking up the feather and looking at it thoughtfully. Uraraka looked like she was about to explode, but he held up a hand. Hold on. Have you tried any other spells? Like a fire spell or an electric one? Yeah, but only levitate seems to work for me, Uraraka admitted. I think it might be because of my quirk. Yeah, I think so. Kazuma agreed, spinning the feather in his hand and thinking, your quirk lets you manipulate gravity, right? Well, sort of. I just removed the effect of gravity on objects. To demonstrate, Uraraka slapped the book, then dropped it, only for it to simply slowly spin in the air next to her. Anti-gravity, Kazuma agreed, thinking. Am I know a skill that increases the effect of gravity or maybe an object mass? Let's see. Wait, the world went white, and the next thing Kazuma knew, Darkness was hauling him out of a pile of rubble as his ears rang. He blinked and saw a dark shadow hovering over a battered Takayami who had thrown himself over a stunned-looking Uraraka. Guards and knights got a hold of Kazuma and the others, dragging them out of Uraraka's now ruined room. Thankfully, they'd been in a manor house, not the main fortress, and the only injuries were things Kazuma was able to mend quickly once he was able to get back on his feet. My lord, what happened? Archmage Denker asked, having arrived along with a dozen other powerful magi. We detected a great outburst of magic. Did some spell of yours go awry? No, Kazuma said, a maniacal grin spreading over his face. No, I think I just figured out how we're going to beat the Lord of the Tomb's army. Get me to Frederick right now. Just so you know, Uraraka told Kazuma as a carriage was brought around for them. That was, perhaps, the single stupidest thing I have ever seen anyone do. Did you never take a physics class? Gravity and anti-gravity don't mix. I think that's actually how I ended up dying because I used my quirk on Midoriya when he had on that contraption of Hatsum's. I told you I was a neat. I ditched school to play video games. Which means I know dick about physics, but I do know a lot about combo moves, Kazuma told her. Yeah, well, next time, warn us before you do something stupid. I'm just lucky Takayami realized what an idiot you were about to be, and that Dark Shadow was quick enough to shield both of us, Uraraka told him. Then she smiled. But hey, at least we did live. And I guess we figured out something useful anyway. You're not too bad, Kazuma. Even if you're a dumb pervert, and you're not too bad for a money-grubbing killjoy, Kazuma said with a lecherous grin. Uraraka rolled her eyes, but then held out a fist to Kazuma. After a moment, he tapped it. We'll win this, Kazuma. Don't you worry. I'm not dying again. Yeah, trust me, it's not an experience you'd ever want to have. And don't get me started on that whole good death nonsense. They all suck, trust me. I've died a dozen times, and they were all painful and humiliating. They met with Frederick and Denker in a private audience chamber, the Kaiser looking even more frazzled. Kazuma said, then briefly explained the interaction between his weight skill and Uraraka's quirk. You people don't happen to have any mages that can do that sort of thing, do you? No, if a lightning spell and a weight-increasing spell are used on the same object, they will either cancel each other out, or the stronger spell will exert more of a force on the object, Denker said, stroking his long gray beard and furrowing his brow. How is it that your spells interact in such a fashion? Well, shit, I don't know, Kazuma admitted. Maybe they operate on different principles, or maybe it's the fact that one uses my quirk and the other uses magic from a different world. Uraraka suggested perhaps two different kinds of magic were not meant to mix together. A blending of mortal and divine could indeed have unforeseen consequences. Denker agreed, though you should really consult a priest on such matters. Their spells are of a different origin than a magus. Yeah, do any of them know turn undead? Kazuma asked, thinking of the skeleton knights from their arrival. Only the highest-ranking clergy can perform such a spell, but they have been largely ineffective against our foes, Denker informed. Figures, Kazuma said, slumping into a chair uninvited. He looked out the window, rubbing at his aching head. He could heal most of his own wounds, but lesser heal wasn't nearly as effective as he'd like. A thought occurred to Kazuma, and he pulled out a tube of rolled paper with a wax fuse in it. Say, do you guys know anything about explosives? Explosives? You mean such as alchemical fire? We have some of that, Frederick told him. It is difficult to manufacture, though. That could be useful. What about glycerin, sulfuric acid, and nitric acid? You know about those? Kazuma prompted. Uraraka's eyes went wide. Oh my God, Kazuma. Are you going to try to teach them how to make dynamite? What of saltpeter, charcoal, and sulfur? Takayami asked. That would be useful. I do not know what it is you spoke of, Archmagnus Kazuma, but we have what Lord Takayami asked for. Saltpeter is used to cure meat, charcoal can be found in any fireplace, and sulfur is a component in many spells, Denker informed them. A slow grin spread over Kazuma's face, and he rubbed his hands. Well, then all we need is a bell founder, and we can set to work. A bell founder. What need have you for bells? Well, Kazuma told. Come on, I bet. Thus, over the next few weeks, Kazuma, Uraraka, and Takayami worked frantically to apply their knowledge of chemistry and modern inventions to create as many weapons as possible to fight the approaching army of the Lord of the Tomb. It took a few tries, mostly trying to remember the correct ratios and creating results worth using consistently, but Takayami and Uraraka managed to get a process going to create large quantities of crude gunpowder, which was useful in and of itself. This allowed for hundreds of simple bombs to be made, which they could toss at the enemy with siege weapons. Kazuma quickly gave up on the musket idea as after half a dozen prototypes he wasn't anywhere close to a workable weapon, and as Frederick pointed out, crossbows were readily available and what his troops knew how to use. Cannon, on the other hand, proved to be relatively simple to make. They were crude muzzle-loading smoothbore devices, but Kazuma already knew about bagged shot, and it wasn't hard to use his smith's skill and a few bells to show what he needed. It was a little harder figuring out how to aim and use the damn things, but upon seeing a cannonball that weighed 10 kilos shot over a kilometer and caused a significant amount of destruction, Frederick all but declared Kazuma a national hero. This will give us a fighting chance against their monsters and sorcery, Frederick proclaimed, smiling widely for the first time they had known the man as he slapped Kazuma on the back enthusiastically. Now, if only I had 100 of them. Sadly, there
I think I need a little bit of break. I'm gonna have a full break because I might want to play more, watch more, but damn, it is getting a little tiring here. Not home, so my damn fucking what I usually use is really great. Oh my fucking god. There's a fucking burning in here. Actually, have the damn thing from this house. I can change that. Mm. As you continue, boys, we're gonna do more than this though. More than 10. Let's be higher than 10. Let's continue.
There were not that many bells nor that much bronze in the city, and the iron and steel cannons Kazuma tried to make tended to burst from the heat of the blast, so he had to scale back on the idea. After a full month of production had passed, they had still managed to make 25 cannons, thousands of shots, and even more bombs. Now we just have to beat that army, Kazuma muttered, standing atop the walls and leaning on the parapet. It was night at the moment, but Kazuma could clearly see where the Lord of the Tomb's approaching army was. It was actually hard to miss, with fires burning all across the horizon. Despite the many kilometers of distance between them and the city walls, the smoke was already filling the air, making it harder to breathe. Or maybe there was just the anxiety of seeing a horde of monsters ready to pillage approach. Kazuma wasn't quite sure. We can do it, Kazuma. These weapons you and the others created, they are quite impressive, Darkness said, rubbing her hand along one of the cannons. It was a massive weapon, large enough that Kazuma could have crawled inside of the barrel, and they had needed to build a special platform specifically for the top-mounted turret, as well as have Uraraka help raise it up using her quirk, yet they'll certainly make a big boom. Kazuma chuckled. He grimaced. Sort of wish I had a useless mage here to help me with that right about now. Maybe it's best Megumin isn't here. She always was jealous of my own explosions. Darkness came to stand over by Kazuma, her own expression growing solemn as she looked out at the line of destruction inching its way towards them. Was this what it was like in Belzerg as the army came near? Kazuma shivered, feeling an icy sense of dread in his stomach. Yet probably. They looked out together for a time, looking at the end of the world as it approached. Kazuma sighed and shook his head. Come on, let's get some rest. They're sure to attack soon. They had just left the walls when a runner approached. My lord, my lady, is what, another one? How many ways can we find to say point the shooties at them and fire? Bah, fine, we'll go talk. They rode up to the citadel, where Uraraka and Takayami were already waiting. Come, final preparations are already underway, Takayami said. Kazuma nodded, dismounting from his horse. He was just about to step inside when alarm bells started to go off in his head as his senseful skill triggered. Whoa, something's coming, Kazuma said, putting his hand in his sword. Fat, where? Darkness demanded, drawing her sword and looking around. Damn it, they're stealthed, but flare. Kazuma threw his hand up in the air, sending out a shining crimson marker that illuminated the courtyard. In the shadows at one side, 4 figures appeared. At first glance, they looked like normal servants, dressed in dark dresses with white frocks. But a closer look showed them to be just so slightly off. Their hair had a strange sheen, and their eyes glowed malevolently in the dim light. One of them was especially odd-looking, with an eye patch and strange metallic skirt. We are revealed, the odd maid said in a dull monotone. As she raised her arm, Kazuma realized with a start she was holding a massive gun. Kill them. Kazuma hit the dirt as the robot maid thing opened fire. His horse screamed and went down in a spray of hot blood, and he heard Darkness cry out, though what she said was washed out by the lingering ringing from the bullet in the air. Kazuma jumped back to his feet, Chunchimaru in his hands. The darkness was advancing as bullets simply bounced off of her armor. She was bleeding from a few superficial wounds on her face. It relieved Kazuma's heart immensely as he watched a bullet simply impact her cheek. It simply bounced off, leaving behind only another minor cut. Thank God she put all her points in defense. Kazuma sighed. He looked to the side, then let out a cry of panic as another maid came at him, this one wielding a naginata. She slashed at Kazuma, but his evasion skill allowed him to dodge, if only by a margin. He backpedaled, parrying with Chunchimaru and trying to get his footing. "What the hell are you?" Kazuma cried as he desperately fought to get some distance, with his foe pressing him relentlessly. "We are the homunculi made assassins of the Great Tomb," the maid said in an all too chipper voice. "We bring service with a smile." "Oh great, this is going to ruin the maid fetish for me forever," Kazuma ranted. "Freeze!" The maid easily dodged Kazuma's bolt of magic, giggling as she stabbed at him. "This world has such weak magic users. No wonder our master was willing to send us after you. A mere level 20 squad is enough to beat all of you." "How shows what you know?" "I'm level 28. Kazuma snapped. That made his assailant pause. "Level 28. But there are no levels in this world, and even with world-class items, the king of this land was evaluated at no more than level 15. The brief moment was all Kazuma needed. Steal? He felt the familiar feel of panties in his hand, and he mentally groaned. The one time he wanted his stupid skill to work. PP pervert, only my master is allowed to treat me in such a manner. The maid cried and redoubled her efforts to kill him. Despite his brag, the problem Kazuma had was that Adventurer was a really basic class with low stat gains. The main advantage was that it had access to nearly unlimited skills, but it was generally terrible in combat. Kazuma had always had to rely on his creativity and his party members to defeat really strong foes, and he couldn't manage to think now to actually get in a good blow. "You're a rocket." The maid, expecting some strange spell, tensed up for a moment. She looked puzzled when Uraka simply slapped her in the back before dancing away again. Before the maid could follow up on the strange happenstance, however, she let out a cry of surprise as she suddenly floated off the ground. Kazuma ducked away from the increase. "Get down!" "Wait!" The hapless girl exploded in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave knocking Kazuma flat on his ass. He groaned, scrambling to his feet and looking over at Uraka, her own foe dead on the cobblestones. The way the dead maid was lying in a crater made Kazuma think she'd fallen from a great height, which made sense. Uraka was alright with a sword, but the quirk of hers had potential. "Thanks," Kazuma said, and looked across the courtyard. Darkness was panting, her sword covered in blood as she stood over the robot maid. Her armor was dead. "Well, hey, nice work." Takayami had dealt. "Thank you. It seems my sword skills have improved," Darkness said, "but be wary. She is not yet dead. System malfunction, attempting repairs." The maid gasped, dark viscous fluid leaking from her mouth. Kazuma knelt down in front of her, examining the assassin more closely. "I feel like I've seen her before, but I can't remember where," Kazuma said, shaking his head. "Did we fight her when we attacked the Lord of the Tomb before?" "I do not recall fighting any maids," Darkness said. "No. Designation CCC, error, access denied, in insufficient credentials," the maid said in an electronic voice. "Initiating self." Darkness' fist slammed into the robot, an assassin of some sort based on her stealth abilities. She said, "Great." "Yeah, the other one," she said she was level 20. "How strong was this one?" Kazuma asked, taking the battered gun from the corpse. It had a distinctive siffy look to it and was made of gleaming silver metal. Unfortunately, it was ruined now, though it looked powerful. I am not certain. Her attacks did reduce my HP at least a little, and she damaged my adamantine armor. Perhaps as high as level 60. Darkness guessed. "Wait, is she's level 60? How high are you?" Uraka asked, looking faintly ill and trying to hide it. "I was the third highest level in our party, so level 69, Darkness explained. "However, my skills in defense were such that I was equivalent to someone of a much higher level, though there were few in Belzerk who were that powerful." "Lord Kazuma, what has happened?" Kazuma turned to see Frederick running, sword in hand, followed by a dozen knights and mages. Assassination attempt, Kazuma said, gesturing to the corpses. Lucky we got here when we did. Well, luck has always been my best stat. Frederick asked, looking puzzled. But why? Their armor is far superior to ours. What need have they for treachery and deception? I don't know, Kazuma said slowly. But thinking back, it was kind of weird that those high-level death knights and a leg showed up right when we did. The Lord of the Tomb, he always fought I don't know differently. It's almost like he's some sort of power gamer who knows the strategies adventurers would use. I remember his forces attacked Axel first, which was the town where adventurers just started off. It seemed weird. The Devil King had always ignored. Was not the Devil King someone summoned from Japan who defeated the previous Devil King? Darkness asked. Could not this Lord of the Tomb be the same way? Maybe, Kazuma admitted. Whoever he is, it seems like he's read the evil overlord list. He's not making many mistakes we could exploit. If Fred here got iced, there is a chain of command, Frederick said with a shake of his head. But then he paled. But most of the lords and maguses with experience were gathered together this night to plan. If these assassins had struck and taken us all out, well, see, we got this in the bag. Now I think I'll just repair Darkness' armor and get a good night's sleep. They got a ragged cheer, and Kazuma smiled and waved, then walked away with his party. How bad is it? Uraraka asked once they were a sufficient distance away. Bad, really bad. If they've got a bunch of strong fighters like that to throw at us, we're in hot water, Kazuma said. But those cannons might make the difference against the massive army out to knock our teeth in. Besides, don't worry. I'm the man with the plan. I'll think of something. He had to. Do not fear. Kazuma always has a plan. We have faced countless foes stronger than us, and his plans always delivered us in the end, Darkness said, which seemed to reassure Uraraka and Takayami. They didn't see the look that passed between Kazuma and Darkness. What about the time when his plan had gotten everyone killed?
Let him